Today I've been just
Well, I do too.
my daughter was sick, so she stayed home.
Changes that because they can't
And
respond.
once that happened,
I'm Alex Rico. I used to work at the
I
campus.
left my book, all my stuff,
The young
like
lady
all my notes today.
showed me on my bill that my kilowatt hour charge was 17.2 cents per kilowatt hour. None of the numbers which are here have any bearing on how can the price of electricity go down by 40%.
Check, check. Test 1, 2.
You got it. You got it.
Not as good as the ones that are off axis. So a normal microphone is absolutely easy to copy. But normally they don't work like this. This one does not. It's got a terrible off axis. But what can you expect with the Grand 99? So that one I'll get back. I got a couple of places here. I went to it. Jimmy was going to go to state house.
I found going through this or some of the reports that I got help. And the help was 44.99 cents. It was.
How far north?
I looked and I was like, sorry, we have to get you out of this contract. And I'm sorry, like this is 45 cents. Anyway.
I wanted to show you, you probably want to just this with you. This was emailed to you today.
Yes, I saw that. I just sent it to Patrick. I was like, hey, let's talk about this one. Because there is a streetlights rate in the Aggregation program. I'll have to go back and double check exactly what it is.
So, let me see, we're gonna wait, well, it's a quarter of 5. We'll wait till a few minutes after, so that the crowd is arriving late. All right. So you have to start 5 minutes.
A little bit. No, I mean, since I was here 2 weeks ago, I think I've done 13 of these.
No.
So, I think I know.
Do you know about why you are drinking North Kingstown water?
Yeah.
You know why you are drinking North Kingstown water?
It's doing it 4 days a week.
I'll tell you that.
Averaging.
After
It's 7 a week.
How long have you lived here?
Yeah.
83 years in North Kingston. Or, sorry, in Narragansett.
Yeah.
Actually, I've lived 45 years here out of my 80.
Yeah.
That's years. This is the first rodeo I've got to go about how this town is run.
This number
No kidding.
was approved this afternoon. I also, I had the Public Utilities Commission to investigate about their.
You know why the pump house is called the pump house?
I have no idea.
Oh, okay. We'll have to exchange what we know the history of them. I can tell you why the pump house is called the pump house restaurant. And several other history that I think are correct.
Oh.
They wanted to get, yeah, there was the
I feel like more of my job is working.
That's the world of customer service, especially.
electricity bills go down, customers stay the same.
Yes.
Which I thought was pretty cool. I didn't know if it's.
I hadn't seen it. I know we talked.
I have.
That's what I'm hoping one of these two are gonna tell us tonight. I suspect that. And that's probably why they are front and center instead of people who really do.
idea that you're actually suggesting percentages.
It has gone down by 2%. That doesn't really mean
I know.
But it's finally stopped moving.
So what is it?
Well, I would have to double check what I was reading upstairs.
Well, no, just a
10.4.
Our electricity charges went to England.
because this is totally.
Oh, yeah, they had to
From the water you drink.
literally changed 2 weeks ago.
Well, actually, I'm not sure because we're billed by Narragansett, but the water comes from us. Mine does too.
Actually, I've got more familiar with that.
I know.
Anyway, I thought that was
There
really
was a civil engineer.
Yeah.
It did force me to go and do it.
That had an office.
Yeah.
I did.
Well, there still is one, I think he's,
Wow, yeah, I just want to.
I introduced myself to him, and
Just what I.
the guys in the office.
But still,
He explained the,
and that's, so the idea is to take off.
Suez is as, Suez Canal. And the reason it's in Paris. Who is responsible for the Suez Canal? Ferdinand the Lesser.
Well, except that you know, I totally get it.
Put together the company that dug the Suez Canal. Then he thought he would dig the Panama Canal and went bankrupt.
You're not going to make that work.
Well, I mean, yeah, no matter what. And you know, I did.
I was born in Pennsylvania, so I don't know the laws of Indiana.
I'm like, Caroline, your grandchildren. So you're welcome.
Yeah, the number of questions I get about why would anybody do that?
Concrete industry, the cement industry, so
I can give you the reason why
I wish they really understand how that was funded.
But you'd never understand.
That was fun, because Pennsylvania Turnpike was the first toll road.
2021 summer.
When the Pennsylvania Turnpike was taken over,
Yeah, but
the
we're
interstate
still doing
system
Zoom meetings.
for a while, which
I don't
not
miss.
charge
I don't miss.
when the tolls were removed as part of the court case. They said, no, we're not going to. Of course, Rhode Island's now charging trucks are using I-95, but I know they turned it back up.
Yeah,
The gantries are still
Aaron's
up.
last name, he's on the town council in Bristol, where we had been working with them.
They were on
It's like,
for
hey,
a year or
speak to
so.
my class. I didn't know the class.
They got, well,
And
they,
she would say, oh,
they
you
advertised
go talk to
all
town
over.
council.
I was just finding it amusing that some, you know, I mean, I was absolutely in favor of it.
She's sorry.
So you're older than I am. I'm the oldest guy.
I don't,
We had to do something, we had to.
Yeah, I said.
I don't
Usually
think
I'm
it
older,
wasn't
but this time I'm not.
there's anybody to argue.
well, we had just done the RFP with. Either Newport or Portsmouth, where they've done an RFP in a month. No, it was like, it was literally within months. Yeah, there's literally. You're right.
Test. Good evening. Good evening. Forgot to have everyone's attention. Thank you. First of all, thanks for coming, everybody. This is our second public informational work session. We did one a couple weeks ago. It was really very well attended, and this is a great turnout also. So thanks for coming. My name is Mike DeLuca. I'm the planning director for the town of Narragansett, and I'm the staff person who is liaison to our consultant, who I'll introduce in just a moment. And it's my job to oversee the town side of this project. So tonight's meeting is to provide the background. Obviously, many people have questions. You all received letters in the mail. So we want to provide some background about the electricity aggregation program and to answer questions. Just a little history before we get underway. The program was initiated by the town council in June of 2021. So it's almost 2 full years ago. And it was a very deliberative process. The council members were aware that there were other communities in the state doing this, seeking an aggregation program. There are, in fact, 6 other communities that are doing this work. And because they had become aware of the possibility of aggregating all of our electricity bills and potentially saving a lot of people a lot of money, they sought out Good Energy, who is essentially the only consultant that does this work. So that was in June of 2021. There was a meeting at town, no, there was a Zoom meeting, you just reminded me. We were not meeting in person at the time, to learn about it. And we learned a little bit about it. Our guest gave a very broad presentation that time. He was brought in again sometime later, a few months later, asked more detailed questions. And then later, in 2020, we signed a contract in late 2021 with Good Energy LP. Following that, we, in July of 2022, our town council approved the plan for energy aggregation, and that was sent to the PUC, the Public Utilities Commission, for a full hearing so that it could be approved by the state. That was approved in September of 2022. So that's a brief overview of kind of the passage of time, and mostly what I wanted everyone to know is this isn't a flash in the pan. This is not something that the town took lightly. Our town council, all 5 council members, saw all the information that was provided at those individual steps in the plan, in the process, I should say. And in every case, they kept reinforcing this is a good program. So our guest here is Jamie Rhodes. Jamie works for Good Energy LP. He's an attorney, and he's the project manager for our project. He's got a brief presentation to provide, just no multimedia. This is all just discussion, and we'll open to questions. We're on YouTube Live right now, so when it does go to questions, I'll come out to you with the microphone, kind of like Phil Donahue used to do on TV, and you can ask your question so that the public can hear your questions, and Mr. Rhodes can provide his answers also. So with no further delay, let me introduce Jamie Rhodes.
All right, got the mic angle correct this time. All right, thank you very much, Mike. I appreciate that. As you said, my name is Jamie Rhodes. I work for Good Energy. We're the consultant to the town of Narragansett in developing and implementing the electricity aggregation program. So I just wanted to start quickly by saying the purposes. Why did we start with this program? Why does Good Energy work on it? Why is the town pursuing it? And there were 3 primary goals that we're trying to work towards. The first one is, can we lower electricity rates? Can we bring down the cost of buying electricity for the entire community? The second one is, can we reduce our reliance on fossil fuels to provide electricity? Can we bring in a more renewable, less fossil fuel supply? And the third one was to aim for rate stability. Right now, your rates with Rhode Island Energy change every 6 months, and there's a goal to can we reach longer-term rates than that. So those were the primary reasons why communities have moved forward with community aggregation programs like this. And not to bury the lead on it, that the program itself is accomplishing 2 of the 3 goals at launch. The first one is that the price for electricity in the automatic product, in the standard product, is about I've got the number right here, 1.02 cents less than what Rhode Island Energy is offering. So just to put this in context right now, well, for the rest of the month of March, the rate for Rhode Island Energy is 17.7 cents, or rounds up to 17.8 cents. Their new rates go into effect on April 1st, so that's the end of next week, and that will be 10.341 cents. And then our program goes into effect beginning in May, where the default rate is 9.361 cents. So what that represents is about a 10% saving on the electricity supply. For an average household, the PUC, the Public Utilities Commission, has this measurement of 500 kilowatt hours per month as a standard household. For that level of usage, the savings is about $5 per month over the course of the program to begin with. So, yeah, we were successful at lowering prices. And then the other piece about moving towards more renewables is that the standard product also has 5% more renewables than the Rhode Island Energy standard product. So right now, the state has a law that says no matter where you buy electricity from, who it is, no matter what company it is, 23% of it this year has to come from renewable sources. The standard product in the aggregation program bumps that up to 28%. Yeah, I know 5% doesn't seem like a lot. The idea, though, is that 5% is added across every single participant in the program in Narragansett, plus the 6 other communities that are moving forward. So when we add all of that together, you start to get a very significant increase in the amount of renewables that are being utilized. So with those two goals, lowering prices and increasing the renewables, we were able to deliver at the launch of the program. Currently, we are also sticking with a 6-month rate period, just like Rhode Island Energy does. The primary reason for that is that as we looked at potentially extending that to a 12-month rate period, which is really the goal that we'd like to reach to, that there was the indication was that for the second 6 months of that, there's a better chance of us getting a lower price if we didn't set it too far in advance, and that we gave ourselves time in order to evaluate the market and also procure electricity not too far in advance. The market for electricity has been real volatile this last year. That's why the Rhode Island Energy rate was 17.8 cents all winter. And if we weren't able to have confidence that there would be value in the second 6 months of that rate, we weren't going to put it into place. So what that means is that this rate, the 9.361 cents, is good through until the meter read in November. And at that point, there will be a new rate that goes into place. So just like Rhode Island Energy communicates the rate changes about a month to 6 weeks beforehand, we'll be following much the same schedule, just 1 month delayed from them for the time being. So beginning at the end of September to the beginning of October, we'll be communicating to the public much the same way we did here about the new rates, what they are in comparison to Rhode Island Energy, and that the options that you have to either opt out of the program, choose an alternative product within the program, or just stick with what you have. So once again, that is 6 months down the road. After Rhode Island Energy changes its rates, the rates in this program will change too, and we're very much on the same cycle as we have been on when it comes to that. So once again, I just wanted to bring up front about the purposes of the program and then what it's offering and what it's delivering. So taking a step back quickly, I just wanted to let you know that Narragansett's not alone. As Mike said, the communities of Central Falls, Providence, Barrington, Portsmouth, Newport, and South Kingstown are also all launching their programs in May. We are currently working with Middletown and Bristol to launch their programs later this year. And North Kingstown just recently authorized moving forward with their program, though they are the most recent one, so they have not taken a lot of steps in that direction. They've just recently authorized it. So the idea here is this is not this is not an unknown thing. This is not just a roll of the dice. Is this going to work? This is a program that was developed in other states, has been successful in other states. We currently have about 50 municipal clients in Massachusetts where we are actively running programs. Each one of those programs have saved money for the individual ratepayers, and they stretch back as early as about 2015 is when we launched our first programs. In order to provide the electricity in this program, that we were able to do a multi-municipal, so for all of the communities, RFP for interested suppliers. So I want to walk folks just quickly through how was NextEra Energy selected as the supplier. Is that once the programs, the first programs were approved in May of I get my years right, May of 2021 is when the first programs were approved. We spent about 6 months talking to different suppliers about their interest in working with aggregation programs in Rhode Island. We have some qualifications that we put on suppliers. We're only going to work with ones with the financial resources to serve the number of residents that are in these communities. We're only going to work with ones that have experience working in aggregation programs. As you can imagine, there's lots of individuals that are participating in the program, and they have to have the customer service background to be able to provide individual, a call center, the ability to do these the individual mailings, as well as a track record of customer service. So to be fair, that does limit the pool of potential suppliers down to a smaller handful rather than taking a risk on somebody that's never done this before. When the RFP was actually released at the November of 2021, there were 3 suppliers that expressed their interest and responded to that proposal. After meeting with them, after having a first round of interviews with them, we disqualified one of them, one of their proposals, mostly because of the experience that they had in Massachusetts had been not great with some of their communities, and we didn't feel that this was a time when we would take a risk on somebody with a not great track record of working with individual communities. And so we ended up with 2 suppliers that we then met with the town staff, the town and city staff in each of the communities to brief them on these are the different suppliers and their different approaches to serving the programs. And just to lay it out for you all, is like there were actually 2 very different approaches in how to do it. The first one, and this is how a lot of the Massachusetts programs have run over the last couple years, is they would bid on a flat rate. You know, I'm just making up a number here, 10 cents, and they'll offer it for 3 years. A 2-year rate or a 3-year rate, and they'll just set it at that rate, and then they'll take all the risk about whether the prices go up or down. Given that we were seeing these fluctuations, the market volatility, that rate looks risky right now because they would be giving a rate now when might be valid for 2 or 3 years, but we don't know what 2 or 3 years is going to look like. Is it going to go back to the cycle that we saw prior to the pandemic? Is there going to be a new normal for the price of electricity in New England after that? Those are things that nobody knows, and only time will tell. And so while they were willing to offer a flat rate for a certain period of time, we just had little confidence that the outer months, the outer years of that offer were going to be valuable to individuals. NextEra, on the other hand, offered an approach that said, this is not just a set it and forget it rate. This is going to require us to actively go out and procure electricity on a regular basis. This is a similar model that Rhode Island Energy uses. They have 4 days a year, 4 explicit days a year, that they buy electricity for their supply, for the Rhode Island Energy supply. And just to be clear, Rhode Island Energy does not generate. They don't own generation facilities. They don't have a natural gas plant. They don't have coal plants. So when they are buying electricity for the programs, they are also going out to suppliers and soliciting proposals very much in the way that we did. However, they have 4 days that they do it every year. Those days are known by everybody. They are proposed to the Public Utilities Commission. They are approved. That plan is approved by the Public Utilities Commission, which means that the suppliers know exactly when the utility is going to buy. They know the date, and they know that they have to buy on that date. And so one of the big benefits we have in this program is we don't have to buy on a date. We can buy when the market is in our favor. So if Rhode Island Energy is buying on a Tuesday, then we'll know what prices are on that Tuesday that they're buying at. We could buy 3 days later when prices go down. Or we could have bought 3 days earlier if it looks to be beneficial. And so what NextEra Energy committed to doing was using their experience with these programs, using their experience purchasing electricity for large both industry, for aggregation programs, as well as municipal, commercial, and to say we're going to use that experience of purchasing in the market to the benefit of the consumers or the customers of the program. As a track record, we asked for references. So have you been able to do this? Like, what has your experience been? They pointed us to the Cape Light Compact, which is an aggregation that's been running for, at this point, it's 6 or 7 years that they've been in operation. They've been working with NextEra for 18 months. So they're on their 3rd cycle with them, their 3rd 6-month rate period. The first rate period, they were able to deliver about 1 cent below the utility rates. The second one, they were able to deliver about 1 cent below. And then in the third rate period, they were able to bring in about 4 cents below utility costs. And a lot of that is the more time they had, the better the ability to layer on value for the customers. We had a conversation with the folks at Cape Light Compact, how they do this, what was their experience working with NextEra. They gave a glowing recommendation. They said they've been great partners to work with. They've been flexible in working with, at that point, it's about 23 different municipalities that are in that program. So they've been successful at both being flexible to meet the needs of the different communities, and they've also been able to deliver value across the entire duration of the contract. And so with that type of recommendation and the evaluation of these two differing proposals, we brought the recommendation back to each of the municipalities is that NextEra is the one that's offering us a service right now to supply electricity for the program in a way that we believe is going to provide value. With that, the town or city councils that are participating in the program authorized entering an agreement with NextEra. That happened at the end of August or beginning of September last year. And at that point, NextEra went out and started procuring electricity to serve all of our residents to begin in May. So that's just a little background about how we chose NextEra and the reasons why we supported that program, supported them as a bidder. So three things that I want to get to at this point. The first one is clarity around, so if somebody has their bill with them, what you'll see is that there's two main categories on your bill, and there's a third, like the other category, the miscellaneous stuff. But there's the two primary pieces of your electricity bill are delivery services and supply services. The delivery services is Rhode Island Energy's job. We're not changing that. We're not moving away from Rhode Island Energy as our utility. They will still own, look out here. They still own the poles, the wires, the substations, the transfer stations. Those are still Rhode Island Energy's. They are still responsible for delivering electricity to your home. They're responsible for power outages, maintenance, repairs, and the like. This is their business. This is how they make money. As a regulated utility, they earn a profit on every bit of the capital expenditures that they have, but they are legally prohibited from making any money on the supply of electricity. That is not their core business. They provide electricity supply because, once again, there's a law saying that they have to provide service, and it's called last resort service. Currently, the last resort service is the default of about 90% of the state. Most policymakers think that that's not a great way for this to work because there's no competition in that scenario. And Rhode Island Energy had been insulated from competition for the most part because the individual market didn't work for us. If I wanted to go out to buy electricity, there's a website right now called empowerri.org. You can look at that for the different competitive supply offers that are available to you. I look at it at least once a week just to see, hey, what's out there, what's going on. At no time in the last, I would say, 12 months have I seen an offer there that's below Rhode Island Energy's cost. But what we've been able to do is that through this program and having it through the aggregation program, we're able to shift that balance of power with the suppliers. And by having everybody in the 7 communities in the program, we're able to say, let's actually sit down and negotiate. It's not just you offer us a rate. You actually want to provide service. You want our business. You want to provide electricity supply to these programs. So let's actually have a conversation about how this is going to work. And so that was the end of the RFP process, was the negotiation with them about how are they going to structure this, what guarantees are they going to put in place, and what are the systems they're going to put in place to give us confidence that they're going to deliver value over time. But to be clear, Rhode Island Energy does not oppose these programs. They're not losing revenue because of the programs. They have not opposed them in any way. In fact, from what I can generally tell is that if they got out of the business of supplying electricity for most of the state, they'd be more than happy to do so. Because once again, this is not what they do. This is an added-on responsibility. So the other piece that I wanted to bring is like why is an opt-out program versus an opt-in program. And to keep the end in mind, The fact that it is an opt-out program is the reason that we have rates lower than Rhode Island Energy. If it was an opt-in program, that savings would never have materialized. Opt-in programs have been available for about 30 years in Rhode Island, and none of them have ever gotten off the ground. The primary reason is that if I were to go to an electricity supplier and say, you know, we're building an aggregation program, we'd like you to supply it, their first question is going to be, well, how many people are in it, and how much electricity do they use? They're thinking, well, how much am I going to have to buy? How much am I going to have to supply? How is this going to work? And unfortunately, my answer would be, I don't know yet. It's an opt-in program. We're still canvassing the neighborhoods. We're still talking to folks about whether they want to be in. But if I came to your door and I said, would you like to be part of this aggregation program? Your first question would likely be, well, what's the rate? And I would say, I don't know. It's going to be dependent on how many people sign up. And so you get into this catch-22 of you need people to get interest from the suppliers, and the suppliers need to know how many people there are to give you a competitive rate. So in that situation, it just doesn't work. The opt-out model, and a lot of this is pulling from the experience in Massachusetts, shows that for the most part, this is what gives that negotiation power and the buying power to bring in the lower rates. The Attorney General, before she was the governor, Maura Healey, when she was the Attorney General, she did a 4-year study about the electricity rates in Massachusetts and compared the aggregation programs versus the folks that are on utility supply. And it was very clear that the aggregation programs were lowering rates for individual customers because it opened up the competitive market, it opened up competition on an equal playing field rather than a supplier having all the power and us as individual customers having none of it. And so that's really the core about how making an opt-out program allows us to be able to bring in competition to this market. And so the last piece I just want to go through is the customer service aspect of this. Recognizing this is an opt-out program, we wanted to make sure everybody knows that you have the opportunity to opt out. This is voluntary. You do not have to participate in this program. If somebody does not want to participate in the program, there's a number of options. Prior to April 8th, you can mail in, I don't know if I have a card, well, here's a sample, somebody that just dropped this off, card that was received in the mail. All you have to do is sign your name here and say, I don't want to participate in the program, and you get that back to the supplier in the mail by April 8th, and you will never be in. That's it, you're out. If you miss the April 8th deadline, then up until April 11th, you can do it online, and we can process it immediately, and we don't have to wait for the Postal Service to deliver it. And this is just if you never want to participate in the program. That's that date. If after that date you decide you don't want to participate in the program, you can still opt out. You can leave the program at any time between now and eternity when the program ends. If you'd like to opt out, there's no costs, there's no fee. All you have to do is either call a customer service number that's on the letter. That is a customer service center that NextEra Energy has put together to serve these programs. And they can opt you out of the program. And they can also help you select an alternative supply option if you so choose. We've also set up the website, Narragansett CommunityChoiceElectricity.com. That should also be on the letter. And there's an opt-out form. There's also an enrollment or opt-in form for anybody that may not have gotten a letter and wants to opt into the program. You can do it there. And also, if you want to select a different supply option, you can do it on the website. And lastly, if you don't want to deal with anybody in the program, you don't want to talk to NextEra, you don't want to talk to Good Energy, you just say, I don't want anything to do with this whatsoever, you can call Rhode Island Energy, and they can opt you out of the program as well. So their customer service staff is fully able to do so. And we want to let folks know that that is an option. As I have done many of these meetings, there's been a number of questions about why would anybody choose that option. And I would say it's generally not because of the price, because if you're making this decision based off of cost, then I would imagine you choose the cheapest option. But the two primary reasons that we have heard, and once again, I'm about transparency here. While I support these programs and I believe they are successful, I know they are successful and I believe they are good for our community, I also respect everybody's individual decision to be part of it or not. So the two primary reasons we've heard that people want to opt out, the first one is a decision was made for me and I don't like that. Opt-out program, so if you are personally just opposed to having that type of decision made on your behalf, you are free to opt out to do so, and I absolutely respect that decision. The other piece is that there's been some reporting about NextEra Energy, and one of their other subsidiary companies is a utility in Florida. The utility in Florida has their CEO has former connections. Their former CEO has connections to Ron DeSantis. I won't go into the long sordid details of that. He's no longer the CEO of that utility. And if that is a position of like, I don't want to deal with a company that has any ties to certain political figures, then once again, opting out is a perfectly good political statement to make. The caution that I give everybody there, and once again, this is about transparency, is that Rhode Island Energy also uses NextEra Energy as one of their suppliers. So if it's a political decision, is of I don't want to work with any company that has any ties to that particular official, I encourage you to go to that website, empowerri.org, and find a third option. And you may want to research them too. And that's just because of the nature of this business, that most of the large suppliers that are out there that service with these programs and service utility programs, they have a history in the fossil fuel. There's nothing to hide here. And so NextEra Energy, once again, their subsidiary, the utility in Florida, had connections with the governor there. NextEra Energy, as a company, have a political action committee that's given to Democrats and Republicans throughout Congress. Almost always, in general, it's those that sit on committees that pass legislation that affects their business. They give out they make political contributions to those campaigns, which is, once again, if our goal was to have an energy supplier with none of these connections, then there's nobody left. And I've stood here and said, it's like, really, the energy supplier that we want doesn't exist yet. One that it's only based in renewables, it doesn't have these political connections. If that's a supplier you want, then I encourage you to find $1 billion and start an electricity supply company. Or if you have $1 billion and you'd like to invest, I'm more than happy to figure out a new industry to get into. But so I just wanted to lay out of the reasons why I've heard folks that are opting out, and we have started collecting some data of folks when they do opt out. We have a 1-question survey if they choose to answer it. These are generally the reasons. It's either I don't like that it was an opt-out, or the reporting about the political connections of the vendor that you chose is unacceptable to us. So just lay that out there. Let everybody make the decision as they will. The last piece, and I know I said this in the beginning, but there are 4 products being offered within the program. They're called Basic, Standard, Green 50, and Green 100. The only difference between these 4 products is the amount of renewable energy certificates that are purchased for them. Renewable energy certificates is how we track how much renewable energy is in each one of the products. The Basic product, which you can opt into that product. It has the lowest price, and it has the exact same amount of renewables as Rhode Island Energy Service. The state minimum, 23%. The Standard product, which is the default enrollment, has 5% more renewable energy, and the price difference between them is about buying that additional 5% of renewable energy certificates. The Green 50 is there's renewable energy certificates for 50% of your usage. So you can say, like, you can easily say, 50% of all of my electricity use is coming from renewable sources. And then for the Green 100, it's 100% of your electricity is offset by the renewables. And also, just in case this is a question in somebody's mind, we are buying renewable energy certificates in 2 different ways. To meet the state requirement, that 23%, NextEra Energy is procuring renewable energy certificates to meet that standard. All of the voluntary renewable energy being purchased is being done through Green Energy Consumers Alliance. They are a Rhode Island and Massachusetts-based nonprofit. They purchase renewable energy certificates from projects based in Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Maine, in the region. And they have entered an agreement with the program to provide those voluntary renewable energy certificates from Rhode Island-based projects. They recently just put up a blog, and they did a couple webinars last week about this, but they have a map of the actual projects of where they're coming from. I'll tell you the ones that I can picture off the top of my head. There is a solar farm out in West Greenwich. The Narragansett Bay Commission in Providence has both a solar farm out in Coventry, as well as their turbines at the Providence port. There's a capped landfill in East Providence. There's a turbine farm in Johnston, and believe me, if you live at the edge of Cranston and Johnston, or in Johnston, there's some people that are not happy that they're there. But we're buying the renewable energy certificates from them. So these are the types of projects that we're seeking to support through the voluntary purchase of RECs, is that we want to bring that money and bring it back into the local economy in order to support those that are generating renewables here. And the intention is that as the program grows, it'll give Green Energy Consumers Alliance the ability to purchase more renewable energy certificates from local projects. So with that gets me through my standard presentation here. And at this point, I'd like to open it up that any questions that you have about the program, how it operates, Good Energy. I mean, you can ask Mike about Mike. This isn't really the Mike show, but he might even answer some questions about himself. But yeah, any questions that you all might have, I'm happy to answer them.
Is there anyone, does anyone have questions? Yeah, gentleman over there. Let me come over with the microphone. Remember that we're live streaming, so the public needs to hear.
Thank you. Appreciated that discussion. You conveyed a lot of information that I had questions on. You mentioned the other 4, 5, or 6 towns that are involved in this. Have you been involved, or your company been involved in negotiating their programs as well? And are they getting the same rate that Narragansett's getting?
The answer to that is yes and yes. So just to I'll just give a little context to that. Good Energy was originally, the first 4 communities that moved forward were Central Falls, Providence, Barrington, and South Kingstown. They were the first ones to approve the program. They issued a joint RFP for consultants. This was November 2019, if I've got my memory right on this. Yeah, November 2019, they issued a multi-municipal RFP. We were one of the folks that responded to that, and then we were eventually selected by those 4. After that, we saw, I will remember which communities are. It was Portsmouth came on board next, and they, instead of running their own RFP process, they said, well, you guys just did one, can we look at all the results there? And Providence had made a commitment to any community in the state that if you want to review our RFP process and review all the responses, we will share them with you. So they took notice of that RFP, and they became the 5th one. Newport opted to run its own RFP process, so we worked with them on that. And we were selected through that competitive process. And shortly after they finished is when Narragansett approved. And we did the same thing of like, here are all the records of the RFP. You're free to run your own, or you can take notice of the one that was done 3 months ago, and it was unlikely to be much different. So that was how Good Energy was selected by each of the communities. We have a separate agreement with each community, just like NextEra eventually, when we went through that process I described before, also has a separate agreement with each community so that they are free to work independently. At the moment, though, when we brought back the proposal, NextEra said, well, we're all doing this together. So while our contracts are separate, we can just do this at the same time. And so each one of the communities has the exact same price at the time of launch. For communities that are working now and will get approved later, they're going to have a choice. They're going to have a choice of, do they run a separate RFP for a supplier, or do they take notice of the current program and ask to join the program? And so we have worked with NextEra to set it up such that new communities can join, but it's going to be the choice of that individual town council about whether they want to or whether they'd like to go back out to the market on their own. Yeah. Which I realize I answered a couple questions that you didn't ask, but I'm one for context.
All right, we have a question back here.
Hi, I actually have 2 questions. The first is around renewable energy certificates. Are they the same thing as saying that for a given rate, this is the amount of renewable energy that will be produced and consumed, produced for consumption? Or is there some differentiation with the idea of a certificate?
Can I answer that before you go to
please.
the next one? Otherwise, I will forget the first question.
Go ahead.
So the renewable energy certificate system is a state by state. Every state does it a little bit different, but ours is similar to Massachusetts. And what it says is that anybody who puts a megawatt of electricity onto the grid, everyone gets a certificate. That means like a natural gas plant, they get their natural gas certificates. A coal plant gets a coal certificate. As you can imagine, nobody really wants to buy that. There's no market for those. But there's still a certificate because every megawatt of electricity is tracked from its generation source to the grid. Now, what they've done is with the renewable certificates is that we've created a secondary market for it. So when we say 23% of our electricity comes from renewable sources, it means that we have certificates that cover 23% of our usage. And to be very clear about the physics of it is that the electricity that runs through your home, I do not know exactly where it came from, and you can't really find that out. Because the electrons all look the same. Like once they get into your home, they could come from, no matter how they were generated, they all look the same. So if I want to take credit for renewables, the question became, well, how do we do that if I can't actually track the electrons that come into my home? Because the goal of the grid is that when you turn your lights on, electricity comes. And the job of the grid is to say, all right, I have to, at all times throughout the day, match the demand with the supply. And so they're constantly bringing on new supply, shutting down other supply in that way. But every time a renewable energy generator puts that megawatt of electricity onto the grid, they get a certificate. Now, each one of the suppliers, whether it's Rhode Island Energy, whether it's NextEra, then has to go buy these certificates on the open market to make it to that 23%, or in our case, above that. So what happens is that they go out to the market, and in this case, for the mandatory piece, they work in their own market, and for the voluntary piece, we have the long-term agreement with Green Energy Consumers Alliance for it. Those certificates are purchased, and they're put into account at this other organization called NEPOOL GIS. I won't even go into what that stands for because I would get it wrong. Their entire purpose is to generate these certificates, track these certificates, and then retire the certificates. And they get retired based off of the product that you have. So your products here each will have their own independent certificate account. Rhode Island Energy has its own certificate account, and you go down the line. And so what they do is, and it's about 1 year after your electricity has been used is the deadline to have enough certificates in that account to match the electricity that was used a year ago, and then they get retired so they can't be resold. And so what we're doing for accountability purposes is that we are going to be publishing an energy source disclosure label for each one of the products. Right now they're going to go online. We'll put copies at the town hall. I imagine I'll bring them to the town councils and everything. But what they do is say, you're in 100% product. That means we're committed to delivering 100% renewable for you. Now, as we retire the certificates for that product, we'll be like, great, we got 70% wind certificates, we got 20% hydro certificates, and we got 10% solar certificates. So your electricity is offset by these sources. Now, if you're in the standard product, you'll have that for your renewables. And then for everything else, there's what's called the system mix, which is the generic allocation of all of the other electricity sources bundled together. Minus the ones that certificates have already been purchased for. Those don't go into the system mix because you get direct attribution for those. But for everything else, you get the system mix, which I'll just put a little thumbnail sketch on that, is about 60% natural gas, about 20% nuclear, oil during really cold days, coal with about 5%, and the rest are renewables that didn't have their certificates either purchased on the market or some, like for for anybody that has solar panels on their house, you technically get certificates too, but if you don't do the work to actually get it certified, you can't actually sell it. So that goes into the system mix as well. So that's the answer about tracking the certificates, where they come from, and then within a year of the program in operation, we'll be reporting back when the certificates are retired.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
That's clarifies the root of my question, which was it's not like buying carbon offsets. It maps back to actual production. Yeah, okay. So really just two more questions. And can you switch products midstream?
Yes, you can switch products. When you put in your request to switch, it goes into effect the next time your meter's read. But you can change every month if you want.
Okay. And can you talk a little bit about solar panels? I have solar panels. Right now it's net metering. I understand that it's going to be the same moving forward. There's no change?
Yeah, that's correct. So I'll actually break that into three because there's three potential programs somebody might be in. There's the net metering program, which is where you get credits on your bill for the amount of electricity you generate. In that program, the value of your credit is by law tied to last resort service. So like right now, that credit's worth 17.8 cents plus some of your distribution charges are also offset by those credits. Come April 1st, the value of that credit is now going to be 10.34 cents plus the distribution charges. But then when you get, with the aggregation program, the value of the credit's still going to be the 10.34 cents plus the distribution charges. But for any electricity that you buy, that because you're not offsetting it with your usage, you can get the aggregation rate. So you can, for any electricity you need to buy beyond what's generated at your home, you can participate in the program, purchase it through the aggregation, and have that lower rate. And then for everything that you generate, you get credit value based off of the higher rate, which is the contract you have with Rhode Island Energy currently. So the second program is the Renewable Energy Growth Program. And this is where you, instead of getting bill credits, they send you a check every month for the amount, which means that you have 2 meters on your home, your outgoing meter, which is what you generate, and your incoming meter for what you use. And in that situation, the rate at which the rate that you are paid for what you send out is set when you build the project. And that value will be set for the life. The thing is that number changes every year. It's reset every year by the Office of Energy Resources. So whatever rate you got when you built the project, you will get that rate even if you participate in the aggregation program. It's just that for the incoming electricity that you use, you can benefit of the aggregation rate. So you still get the outgoing, and then you get the ingoing. And then the last one is the community solar. So community solar are programs like a big solar field is built out in the woods somewhere. Well, there's plenty of people arguing that we shouldn't be building so many solar panels in the woods. I'm happy to have that conversation as well. I have strong feelings about it, but that's not neither here nor there for this conversation. But for those programs, Arcadia Energy is the well-known one that's run a lot of these here. That is a straight bill credit. So what they do is they sign up a whole bunch of people, they get a bunch of credits on the bill, and then they allocate them to individual customers that have enrolled in their program. Many of those customers have actually signed over their bills to Arcadia Power so that they can facilitate this without them having to do anything. We called Arcadia and we're like, Rhode Island Energy, when they gave us a list of all the folks that are eligible to participate in the program, those customers were included. So we called Arcadia and we're like, are you sure? Like, can they participate? You're not gonna have a problem with the billing system or anything that way. And they assured us like, no, because the people that participate in remote or community solar still need electricity to come from the grid. They don't have any panels on their house or anything like that. So they're still drawing electricity, and they're free to choose whoever they want to buy their electricity from. And then they'll still get the bill credits from the program from whoever is operating it, like Arcadia Power. So you will still get your bill credits. It's just that for the electricity used, you can get a lower price. So there's no change in that. So those are the 3 primary solar programs. If somebody has an alternative program, like they're participating in something else, let me know and we can deal with that separately. But those are the 3 main big ones. Although I will say there's scattered around, there's lots of other weird. It's electricity. There's a lot of weird things out there. There's a lot of different programs. But that's a primary way. Yeah. Did you have another one, or is that?
No.
We're good.
All right, Jamie, I have to tell you, I was going to ask that question because you know that I have solar panels on my house. And I'm in the REF program, so I guess that was the first one you described.
So the REF means that you're probably in the net metering because you get bill credits. The REF is a grant program that covers some of the upfront costs of installation, and that comes from the Office of Energy Resources. So it lowers the cost, but then you have to go into net metering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's working pretty good.
Working well.
Okay, we have another question right here. Hold on.
It's just to be clear in my head, if I opt out this May, I can opt in next May, correct? And
Yes.
will the rate be the same as every resident who started in May of '23?
If we're looking at May of 2024, our rates are going to change once between now and then. But yes, you would get the same rate as everybody else in the program at that time. Yep. And I just, once again, abundance of transparency. If you are, I don't think anybody here, but if you own an industrial manufacturing facility, the rules about exiting and entering are a little different. And that's mostly because those users are using like 1,000 or 5,000 times the amount of electricity. So they're treated a little bit differently. We have a different rate structure for industrial customers. So if you are an industrial customer, we can talk separately. It's different than the residential part of the program.
And also, Jamie, just to be clear, this lady who just asked that question, she doesn't have to wait till next May. She could opt in next week.
Yes, it would be any time, and then the rate will still be the program rate at the time that you choose to opt in. Yep, you're welcome.
Any other questions, folks? Yeah, sure, I'll come right over.
While you're doing that, I heard a question, offhanded question here, and I usually address this, but I didn't before, which is, how does Good Energy get paid? Obviously, Good Energy doesn't do this for free. This is my job. So if you look at the rate here, that's 9.361 cents per kilowatt hour, that one at the end, that 1/100th of a penny, that's our fee. So 1/100th of a penny of every kilowatt hour that's sold in the program goes to Good Energy as our fee. We took no upfront costs. There was no cost to the city or the town to work with us. So all the work since 2018, since I've been doing this, has been at no cost to any of our clients. It only comes in when the program launches, successful, people are in it, we're buying electricity, we get that 1/100th of a penny.
Great, thank you.
Just on the Good Energy, just to get this clear in my head, you're the consultant for all the various towns, correct? And Good Energy is the company for all the other towns as well?
In Rhode Island, yes. There are other consulting companies that do this in other states, so yes.
And NextEra is the supplier, but are they the supplier for all the other towns in Rhode Island that you're representing right now?
Yes, they all selected NextEra as well.
What would be the advantage for a town to go out on their own to negotiate with you, as opposed to, I mean, the whole point of this is an aggregate. You have the more people, hopefully the lower the price. So what would be the benefit of a town to say, we're going to go on our own and try to negotiate?
I would honestly say that if I were standing in front of the Bristol Town Council now and we're choosing whether to move forward with NextEra or go out on their own, our recommendation would to move forward with NextEra for exactly that reason. It's a recommendation.
No, I mean just with the towns, all the different towns.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you had, you said the RFP was being used by 4 or 5 towns, why would a town go out and decide to do their own? Price-wise, I would think you'd have a better chance to get a lower price the more towns that are involved. And
yeah, there's a little variation on that. It's the analogy I've used is there's almost like 2 plateaus in this. It's like us individually, it's just no good for us. Once you get up to a certain level, you get the interest of suppliers that they will negotiate with you. But if I go up 10% more, they're not 10% more interested. They're the same amount of interested that they want to supply. But there's another plateau that if you get up to like the industrial, aggregating large industrial customers, you're up at another plateau of where you can start to, it's not just a negotiation, you can start dictating terms to them. And so we're kind of in the place now where I'll just use Bristol, Middletown, and North Kingstown. Let's say they all have their plans approved later this year. Those 3 communities working together would also get up to that first plateau. And they could just say, NextEra has been good. We want to test the waters. We want to see, like we did this RFP starting in 2021. At that point, it'll be the end of 2023. Maybe in the last 2 years, there's a new supplier out there. Maybe there's somebody with an idea that we haven't heard about yet. And so they'd be testing the waters. That being said, I suspect that NextEra will also bid on that RFP, most likely saying, our bid is join the other programs that are already there. And then what we would do is bring that bring that evaluation to the councils, to the staff and to the councils and say, based off of our experience, we would recommend one or the other. I wouldn't know I would make a recommendation in that moment because I haven't seen the results of what that RFP would be. But for the most part, especially if somebody some towns want to move quickly because I expect that to be part of the case here is that so that Bristol will see like, wow, my neighbor is just over the water in Portsmouth. They're all paying a cent less for electricity than we are. How quickly can we get this up and running? And the quicker answer would be join the people that are already doing it is going to be faster than going through your own RFP process to then get those proposals in, evaluate them, make a selection, negotiate a contract, and then get the program online. But these are just kind of like the factors that we would be evaluating with the community. And in the end, what the council says is what we would do.
Can towns go out on their own afterwards? Like if they're in with the same RFP with a group of towns and then they decide, no, we want to.
Yep. So each one, obviously they have to honor the contract that they signed already, but when that contract ends, they will all be free to either work together again, go out completely on their own, end the program completely, or continue the contract with NextEra at that point. They'll have all of these options, and each community gets to make it on their own. They're not bound by what other communities choose to do.
And one other question.
Yeah.
The supplier on our bills, will it give the phone number of the supplier?
Yes.
It does, okay.
Yeah, I will.
All right, thank you.
It's funny. You asked that question, and they give us a character limit, so I can't tell you the number of how many hours we spent talking about the number of, what should the actual words and be in that for our character limit, but that's a whole different level of absurdity of this work sometimes.
Hi, simple question. What was the rationale for the automatic opt-in for standard versus basic? Basic is 0.2 of a cent per kilowatt hour less. Why not recommend and automatically opt in everyone for basic?
Yeah, and that is there's really a judgment call. When a community approaches this program with the idea of having climate action be part of it, then this is the easiest way to make a step in towards a less fossil fuel intensive electricity supply. And so in this scenario, the choice was made, let's try to do both. Let's lower the price and buy more renewables. And that's at the small 5% level, so that we took some of the savings that we were able to get from the competitive bidding process and translated it into a more renewable source. So that was the call. It was that to meet these two goals, there had to be a little bit of a cost to meet that second one, and we brought it out of the savings that we otherwise could have realized.
Okay, can I ask a follow-up?
Absolutely.
You mentioned there were roughly 50 communities in Massachusetts.
That we work with. There's about 110 to 120 programs across the Commonwealth, but we work with about 50 of them.
So great. So the ones you work with. So there's obviously a longer history of pricing than
Yes.
here in Rhode Island. This is kind of new.
Yes.
So is that historical record available somewhere online as far as how those communities actually fared as far as getting lower cost energy?
Yes. I'm trying to think of it is available online, but if you just went to try to find it yourself, you're probably going to be digging through some records. What I'm happy to circulate is the most comprehensive way that was packaged together was when the Attorney General, Maura Healey, did the report on it. She was able to pull together the aggregate value of each of those, of aggregation programs versus non-aggregation programs. If you'd like results from our individual programs, we've provided that information to the councils, and we can provide it to any individual as well of how our specific programs did versus all aggregation programs in Massachusetts. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because I'm just thinking longer term here,
Yeah.
right? This could be a flash in the pan, and I'm thinking, okay, what happens a year, 2, 5 years down the road? So is there an easy way to look at that data from Massachusetts?
If you'd like to give me your email, I can just send it to you rather than having you go out and find it. And I can provide external sources so you know that it's not just me making up data. So I'll be happy to do that because there isn't, to my knowledge, I don't think there's one place to go to where you can see here was the rate of the aggregation programs versus the utility rate on a town-by-town basis, except for when we put the charts together for all of our clients. So what I would do is just send you the client charts that we already have.
I'm glad to provide you my contact info. Thank you.
Before we leave, let's do that. And give me a couple days to pull it together, but we'll be able to do that. I'll probably put it in a table for you. So
Yeah.
Make sure I get your name at the end.
Jamie, why don't you send it to me?
Okay.
And people can contact me through
Perfect.
town hall. If it's is it public knowledge? Can it be put on the website?
We might not put that on the website. We'd have to have a conversation because some of it's our client data, and we don't have the permission. We just don't have the permit. Well, it's like you would ask what town it is, and we'd be like, well, is it Medford or is it Malden, and like we don't have permission to share that. So I would have to check with other folks to make sure that we could share it.
So Jamie, gentleman just asked me, if you're going to send it to me, send Ms. Healy's report and your other specific reports, people can contact me through Town Hall. My email address is mdluca@narragansettri.gov, G-O-V. And if that's hard to follow, sure, I'll spell it. No, it's D-E. MDELUCA @narragansettri, all one word, .gov. And you can look me up on the website very easily. Are there any other questions, folks, from the audience? Jamie, maybe while folks are thinking, I did have a couple questions. I showed them to you earlier. And I wanted to see if maybe some of the people in the room might have had these thoughts also. Could you speak to how the aggregation program affects person on budget plan?
Yes. I'll actually take this in a couple pieces. So the first one is, so for individuals that qualify for like a low and moderate income discount, they get that for their full bill because they participate in the LIHEAP program or qualify for federal benefits. Those bill programs are still, thank you very much. Those programs are still maintained. So if you receive a bill discount for that, you will still receive it afterwards. The net metering piece of it. And then for people that are on budget billing, there's two forms of that. One is an arrearage management plan. If you get behind on your bill kind of pretty far, you can call Rhode Island Energy and say, I need help with this. And what they do is they put you on like a 1-year payment plan to cover most of the bill, but not all of it. And at the end of the payment plan, that is retired. They forgive the rest of your debt. That program is not affected by this, though people that are currently in the arrearage plan, we're not enrolling automatically until they finish that payment plan, just to not disrupt that billing system. For people that are on budget billing, so people that are on budget billing beginning in May, the delivery portion of your bill will be on budget billing, the supply portion won't be. This is actually, we've been in a tangle with Rhode Island Energy's billing department because the rules that have been approved said the entire bill should be, budget billing is available for the entire bill. That's what their lawyer said, that's what the PBUC agreed to, and that's what they ordered to be the case, but they haven't updated their billing system yet to accomplish that. So that will be in place. I can't tell you when Rhode Island Energy will finish upgrading its billing system. It is tied into the transfer from National Grid to PPL and then doing the upgrades. That being said, we have the commitment that it will be done. It's just in the queue of programming items, and we do not expect it to be in place in 1 month. So that's the budget billing plan, is that it will still cover the delivery services. It won't cover the supply services at the beginning, and we're working with Rhode Island Energy to change their system. I think I may have said this before, but I did want to just come back to it, is that all the billing stays through Rhode Island Energy. You will not get a new bill from the program. There's no change. You'll still pay Rhode Island Energy for your bill as well. There's no separate piece of that. So all of this moves through them, and all the billing moves through them, so that, well, honestly, it keeps prices down by not having multiple billing systems when you're already getting one. But yes, that's the budget billing piece.
Another question. And these are questions that were sent to me in the last week or so through phone calls and that kind of thing. An individual called and asked, how is the public notified? You referred to this earlier in your presentation. How actually does the public get notified of the pending rate changes? I know that it goes in the April, October, or May, November cycle.
Yep.
But how does that actually work?
So on the May-November cycle, so just to open up the hood a little bit on the program, about 45 days before new rates go into effect, NextEra Energy will give us draft proposed rates. And then what we do is we kind of go line by line and be like, all right, justify each one of these costs when you put it into the bill. And one thing that we've been able to do with this program is make it so that NextEra Energy does not make any more money if rates go up. That the fee that they charge is flat. So if prices go up, they don't make any additional money. If prices go down, they also don't make any additional money. The idea here is that they want people to be in the program. We want to align the financial incentive that we didn't want their financial incentives to be that if prices go up, we do better, because that's not good for anybody. So what it is like they have a specific per kilowatt hour fee that is paid to that's paid as part of the bill. And then if prices go up, it's because the cost of electricity have gone up for it. I lost the thread of the question. How we communicate. Yeah, sorry. So about 45 days beforehand, they give us their initial pricing, and then we work with them for about 2 weeks let's vet each one of these line items. And then about 30 days prior to it going into effect is that we'll begin communicating to the public. We'll do press releases like we have done. I'll be going to town councils to let folks know, posting it on the program website, using social media to get it out through the town's channels, through the program's social media channels. As requested, we'll do more community forums like this to let people know that it's going out there. We'll be putting ads in the paper about it. The one thing that we are not committing to do is mailing another letter directly to everybody. That's because the cost of mailing that letter gets folded into the rate itself. And so the value of that letter is not necessarily worth the price that we would all pay for it. So we're exploring other options to directly communicate to individual folks, and we're going to be kind of taking the lessons learned from this process, as well as future input from councils and other folks that are interested to say, have you looked at this? Have you explored this path? Because I don't think, just like Rhode Island Energy hasn't found the best path to communicate their rate changes to everybody, I don't think we have yet either. But we're more than happy to continue to explore it rather than just relying on what's been done in the past.
Is that rate change on the website, on the town website?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Would that rate change be on the town website?
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah, both the program website and the town website. We're going to ask you to put up like a little banner notice, rate change coming, here's the new rate, here's Rhode Island Energy's rate, come get it. So we'll make him do it in the back.
I'm pointing to the guy in the back who handles the town's IT services. So he would handle that. Thank you for that question. Gentleman in the rear, let me come back to you.
So I heard what you said before about the two reasons for people not picking up the program, one being, don't decide for me, and the other being the ties to DeSantis. And just doing a quick, search, there's some fairly incendiary stuff out there about DeSantis and the subsidiary of NextEra. And I think you said that it was tied to former officials of NextEra. How can we parse that out?
So I read the same news that you've read.
Yeah.
I do not have a secret cache of news about them that's unavailable to anybody else. I've read all the same things. And so the former CEO is the one that, and I don't remember his name. In fact, I don't plan on ever remembering his name. I'm not going to use any brain space for that. But the former CEO is the one that was tied most directly to both DeSantis campaign as well as some dark. He did some shady election stuff.
He's the former CEO of Florida Power
Florida
and Light?
Power and Light.
Okay.
And also, in the same way, I can't really comment on what Florida Power and Light does. I don't know them. I haven't worked with anybody there. But yeah, they've done some things that I would not be proud of a utility for doing. I'm not going to carry water for them.
That's a good piece of information.
Yeah.
Look at that particular individual.
Yeah, look at that particular individual, and then the rest of it is the Political Action Committee information. They have a political giving page of their website, which gives a sense of these are our standards by which we do political giving, and they also have reports, annual reports for a fair number of past years for the political engagement of NextEra Energy. And most of that information is cross-referenceable with ProPublica and their giving registry. But that is about NextEra's Political Action Committee. The Political Action Committee is made up of individual people that work at that company, give their money to the Political Action Committee. Just to be very clear, it's not the corporate dollars that go there. That's prohibited. But these are all employees of the same company giving to pursue the political purposes of that company. And that's what's reported as far as their contributions to congressional folks. And yeah, they definitely give to folks in Florida since they're based there. But they give to Chuck Schumer, they give to Ron Wyden, they give to Kevin McCarthy. They unsurprisingly sprinkle their money around.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any further questions? Yes, gentlemen. come right to you.
There's the letter that has all of the rates. I don't think they need it.
No, the people watching on TV need to read it.
The letter that has all the rates, is that posted on the town website, and if so, where?
Yeah, it's I'm pretty sure it's posted on. I'm not sure if it's posted on the town website. It's posted on the Narragansett Community Choice Electricity website, but I believe we also have it on. We have a. Oh yeah.
Our
Don't know
IT
the town
director will
website.
answer that question. Hang on just a moment. Do you want to stand in front of the camera?
I can hide from the camera. Everything related to the electric aggregation program is on the front page of the website. Scroll down a little bit to the newsflash section, and you'll see it right there in the first 5 items. Just click on that link. It'll send you a brief description, the link to the program website from Good Energy, as well as a few other documents that we have up there. If there's anything missing, just let me or Mike know, and we can make sure it gets up there for you. So it's a one-stop shop.
Thank you, Dan. Further questions? All right, I guess we're in pretty good shape. I want to thank everybody for coming. I hope we've answered your questions and provided that's okay. Not to worry. Not to worry. You're right. Oh, the press release. That's okay. I will. Okay, thank you everybody for coming. Thank you, everyone. If you have any questions for us, you're welcome to call me or contact me on my email address.